Hey guys, Doc for ReadySetCrypto coming to you Sunday morning with a weekend edition. If this video comes out a little bit later than that, we apologize. It's been difficult recently with travel to New York and everything like that, but crypto never sleeps. Let's go through the top 10 really quickly, and then there's a couple of setups that I really like today and a couple of lessons to go over today. I'm seeing a lot of activity right now, and the markets that are at a very pivotal point, we could either see a formation of a very important higher low set up. Now, that may not make any sense to you right now. Hopefully, by the end of this video, it will make some sense to you so you have a better context for what's happening in the crypto market, and you get away from this sort of sense of being whipsawed around, reading the news, getting optimistic about things, watching the price fall, get depressed about things, then all of a sudden miss every move because you're behind the ball on this. What I want you to do is to learn how to understand, read price charts, and understand how to pick apart the price action so that you know the structure of what's happening in front of you. Now, I'm never going to say that you can read the future, that you can, spread these tea leaves out in front of you and you can see what's going to happen in the future. But what it does give you is an understanding of what is happening, first of all, which I would say 95% of retail traders don't know. They don't know what's happening in front of them. They see a collection of red and green candles and it doesn't make any sense to them. So just getting to that point is going to put you in the top 5% of retail traders. And then number two, if you can form a decision matrix around which you can make decisions. So again, it's not about predicting the future. It's about, okay, what do I need to see in the chart for me to know that this is an excellent probability trade to set up here? In fact, I'll show you a couple of these by the end of today's video. But I digress. Let's get back to the top 10. We'll start with the big dog, Bitcoin here. Now, Bitcoin, again, and I've been saying this several times lately, but if you haven't missed or haven't caught this, no worries. It is in a primary downtrend, still a weekly downtrend. So we're seeing two weeks to the downside in a row here, and everybody's panicking, thinking that, oh my gosh, this is where it goes. But think about what would happen if from the depths of despair down here, all of a sudden it prints a higher high like this. So you have to do this. You have to go through the mental exercise of saying, now, what if this happens? What would I do? Or what would I do if this happens, if it just keeps on breaking to the downside? Would I be prepared for that, or would I be caught like a deer in the headlights and be paralyzed, not knowing what to do because I thought it was going to bounce? And this is where a lot of times retail traders go wrong because they have a bias. A bias will kill you in this business. Because guess where you get your bias from? You get your bias from reading the news. You get your bias from watching TV or watching YouTube channels, and somebody very convincing will tell you, oh, absolutely for sure, the following will happen in the market. And so you get sold on that idea, you pick up a bias, and all of a sudden you are a deer in the headlights. You have concrete overshoes as you get run over by the price as it moves in a direction that you don't expect. And guess what? If you have that same bias, then chances are really good that there's thousands, if not millions, in line with you. And this is where the great fade occurs. Okay, but I'm doing it again. All right, I'm gonna stop the bloviation here. I'm gonna go back to the top 10 and get it on here. So we're seeing a little bit of today, obviously a long way to go. There's another 12 hours to go in the trading day. So we're seeing a little bit of a green candle. In fact, across the top 10, we're seeing universally just about green everywhere, which is okay. That's good. So what could happen here is, again, from this perspective, we could see the price bounce. We could see it move higher. Now, if it bounces, it's going to have to break over 10,000. If it doesn't break over 10,000, this could be just another setup signal for a lower high, roll over again. The same old thing happens, right? Didn't we go through this in March where we rallied off the bottom? Everybody said, there it is. There's the volume spike. There it is. There's the bottom. Let's buy. And all that did was set up a lower high. And this is a larger time frame lower high. That's the weekly chart rolling over. This is a daily chart, but this would be a weekly reversal right there. And so if it bounces up here and if it fails below 10,000, then we just have the same thing happening again. But, we can play within these swings. If it does bounce here, even if it's to a lower high, let's see if we can take advantage of that swing. So we're not going to be buying as the price goes down like this. We're not going to be chasing this thing down the hole. We're not going to be trying to catch that falling knife during a bear market. This is a bear market right now, guys. But we can look for the swings within that, and we can trade within the swings. So absolutely, we can trade within these swings. Just don't want to wait too long. Don't want to wait for things to get too safe. Otherwise, we end up holding a lot of bags that we'll have to, manage later on. So Bitcoin right now is in a very, very important and very interesting spot. This can either just sort of start to bottom out here, and then what happens after that? Does it print a new high, or does it roll over and then we go through the same thing again? Or is this just a couple of days of positive price action, a little bit of short covering, and then we just keep on rolling down? Do we have a date with destiny for the $6,000 or $5,000 level? I don't know, and it's not really worth my time nor your time trying to, determine what the future holds. The only thing that we can do is to trade what's in front of us, and that's the price chart. Just trade what's in front of you, figure out what would have to happen to get you bullish, what would have to happen to keep you on the sidelines if it continues to be bearish, and it's that simple. Stay out of the news, stay out of the fray. All right, so let's go to number 2 now. Number 2, Ethereum. Ethereum holding over 650, getting up to 700 now. This is a classic chart pattern. This is a bull flag, guys. This is a bull flag which has actually gone on for a little bit longer here than expected. And the way that I can tell that is if I go up to my templates, let's add the chop and Bollingers. And we have a mighty, mighty high chop value right now. This is about to move. This is about to move. Range expansion moves to range contraction. And then it moves to range expansion again. Now, which way is it going to go, everybody says? How? No, Doc, tell us which way it's going to go. I don't know. I can't look forward in the future, unfortunately. I don't have that study available in TradingView to look forward in the future, but this is where probabilities come into play. If we go out to a weekly chart, let's go out to a weekly chart. Let's look at the trend here, okay? Now, yes, we still have a series of lower highs and lower lows on the weekly chart. So this could be just rolling over into the next weekly chart, right? So that's all this could be doing. But could we see at least a pop to the upside, even if that creates a lower high below 800 or 820 or so? Yeah, it could. But this could also be we could also be staring at about a 200-point move here, which could easily break up to about 1,000. So this could be a really significant move. One way or another, we're going to get some movement from here. And again, what I love doing is I love using a fixed risk position where we set up our risk on the account to maybe 1 to 2% or so. And we say, boy, is there a huge probability right now of seeing this thing break to the upside. So this to me looks like a really nice setup that I'd be very interested in taking. So what I would want to see before I get into this one is let's go ahead and say it's showing resistance up here at about 720. So it's come down here and it's rallied up to 720 and been rejected. It's come up to 720 and it's been rejected. It's come up to 720 and been rejected. So what I want to do, this is how we do this, is add an alert. And let's go ahead and add an alert for $720. And I just want to have it sent an email to me. Now you can also send it to an SMS. And you can write yourself a message, like, hello, wake up. Ethereum is crossing 720. Go long, right? So let yourself know what's going on. Sometimes these can be a little bit cryptic. You set one up and then a week later it fires and you're like, I don't remember what I was doing a week ago. So tell yourself something about it and set up that alert and then let it go. And just wait for the email. What's cool also is you can see the alerts that you have and any alerts logs that have fired for you and things like that. So you can manage those and maybe take a look at these and say, all right, what was I thinking back here and what do I need to do? What do I need to do to manage this? Do I still want to get into this or is this one dead? And you can manage these. Okay, so back to our daily chart. Again, I think this is a tremendously optimistic this would be a great thing if Ethereum, especially if it's on big volume, breaks out through 720 and starts to catch some perhaps even institutional accumulation. That would be a good thing because that's a lovely pattern. Love to see that. You can see that alert in there. Okay, let's quickly go through the top 10. A lot of these are not worthy of our attention. A lot of these are showing kind of the same thing. Right now, this is an example of a coin in a primary downtrend. If we look at this on the weekly chart, we can see that this is, it's just pulling back on the weekly chart. So on a weekly pullback on the daily chart, it's going to be a downtrend. For this one to reverse, we need to see this print a higher low or higher high combination and do that reversal. But so far, no good. Litecoins in there, a lot of these are just showing kind of just similar patterns. Within the context of a downtrend or corrective price action, we're not going to get a whole lot of structure. And this is why I get excited when I see something like Ethereum. And there's another coin that I'll show you in just a minute, which I think is really good as well too. And they do have good structure. So here's Cardano. Cardano is just kind of, like everything else, there's a lot of these in the top 10. Now, here's an example like Stellar. Stellar needs to print this down in this area, right down in this area around 30 cents. That has to hold as a low. And if it's able to build on this and actually break out above 38 cents and start to build a new high, then we do have a reversal, and then it's worthy of our attention. Here's IoT. A lot of these are just, now Tron is actually looking a little better. You can see an example of a little consolidation pattern, which is trying to break out to the upside. So anytime we see consolidation, building up energy, let's go ahead and throw our chop and Bollingers on here. You can see that high level of energy. This is where we get breakouts from. It's from not range expansions, but range contractions. When you coil up the spring, this is when you start to see the breakouts. Okay, so that's kind of the bottom line for the top 10 here, guys, is that we're seeing, the price has been leaking lower here. After a nice rally off the bottom, it's been leaking lower, and really the thing to take from that is nothing has changed. This is just another weekly lower high, but this can reverse on a dime if it prints a higher low and breaks out above 10,000. That would be the key. So do we need to get that? Or a lot of people will look at that and say, hey, you're going to lose all that edge if you don't buy the dip down here. Well, look, this is still a falling knife, my friends. This is still a falling knife. And until it starts to show a change in polarity back up to higher highs and higher lows, and we can see that with a smaller time frame chart than even a daily chart, we'll see that reversal happen at smaller time frames first. It's not worth our attention and our capital until this starts to move into an uptrend. And honestly, one of the quickest ways to determine that is to throw on the Heiken Ashi candles. Heiken Ashi candles, which is very simple to put on here. It's just a different type of candle. And you can see that right now we're still overall, still a downtrend, starting to pick up perhaps the beginning to an uptrend. What will also happen is if this does move into an uptrend, we'll see this break this descending pattern here, this descending trend line. Okay, so there's that. Let's see if we can see anything. You can see that this has already started to perhaps break that trend line. We're starting to get some bigger green candles on Ethereum. I like this chart setup much, much better. Okay, I sent out a telegram this morning on ontology, and ontology is one of these where I believe there's a high probability of this one breaking out in the near term, and because if we throw chop and Bollingers on here, there's a couple of ways that we're seeing there. First of all, we're seeing a Bollinger squeeze You can see the pink lines here when they squeeze together. It's almost like if you had one of those slimy orange pits between your fingers and you pressed hard, really hard in there, you'll eventually have that pit just fly across the room. You don't know what direction it's going to go in, but the velocity that comes out of that squeeze is usually pretty stunning. And we have the same kind of setup here. So we not only have the Bollinger Squeeze, but we also have the chop index at a high energy level. This is a high probability of a break from this point. Which way, Doc, which way is it going to break from here? What's the future hold for us? Is it going to break to the upside or the downside? I don't know that, but the probabilities do favor that it breaks in the direction from whence it came. Breaks from a consolidation pattern always favor the direction from whence it came, as long as it's not in exhaustion at a larger time frame. Now, this is where we get a little bit funky because on the weekly chart, we don't even have enough weeks to be able to determine an energy value. But this looks okay. Just looking at this from an eyeball perspective, we're getting the flagpole, flag, flagpole, flag. Everything looks really good for this one. So again, ontology setting this up with a fixed risk position of perhaps 1 to 2% of your account. Again, if it doesn't break out exactly when you hope that it is, then just hold the position and wait for it to eventually go in the direction that you want to. I'm going to finish out today's weekend video with looking at Binance Coin. Now, Binance Coin, a couple days ago, I did send out a telegram saying, hey, this thing's breaking out when it was down here. So we'd been watching this one. I'd been bringing this to your attention over the last week or two and saying this is a nice triangle pattern. This should break out to the upside. We have a ton of energy here. Actually, it's been winding up for quite some time now. So Binance Coin was, especially with Bitcoin falling down, this is where an altcoin like Binance Coin will do really well if Bitcoin is soft. So nice break, but don't chase these. This is what happens when you chase after the pump. So this is around the point where my telegram was coming out, as it was breaking out around 0.0016. And I was like, okay, this is a valid break. But, you know, clearly this is the problem here, is if you don't anticipate these sort of things, if perhaps you get the telegram later in the day and said, oh, Doc wants us to get into this, and it's 0.002 at this point. Well, you've just done the normal thing, which is to buy the highs, and all of a sudden you're holding a bag. You've got to anticipate the breaks in these ones. And this is why, with the two trades that I looked at, whether it's ontology, I just got into it because right now, ontology is the type of move that you're not going to be able to get onto this thing. When it starts to break, when ontology starts to break, nobody will be able to get into this. I mean, look at these. This is the break that we took before as it broke out of here. And a couple of days later, this thing was zooming. So this is one of these breaks that you won't be able to get once it starts to move. It will typically happen overnight, after hours, depending on where you are, and it's just not going to be convenient. So you get the email, you get sent the email on it, but it may be 2 o'clock in the morning where you are, and it's no good for you. So guys, let me wrap up this video by just letting you know that I think within the next week or so, we'll find out whether this is anything at all. This positive movement that we're seeing, is it anything at all? Is this actually printing that higher low in some of the major coins, and we can start to rally as we get into the summer, at least in the northern hemisphere up here? Or is this just another head fake on the way lower in the context of a larger time frame weekly downtrend, which it's still in? So there's a lot riding on what happens over the next couple weeks. We'll be there every step of the way with you. You guys have yourselves a great weekend. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you on Monday evening. Take care.